You can't do it on Wednesday. Then
Must do it on Tuesday.
so that what we must do. We must do it on Tuesday down in sports. We are in the building. Myself, left-handed at RM. That's with Twitter, which is this right now. And you got over there the bear that's Yada, aka High Ceilings, in the building. A lot to talk about tonight. You know what I mean? Seems like we always be in some kind of melancholy vibe, man. And tonight I'm feeling some kind of way. But we'll get into that later. We're here to talk about some stuff. We like to talk about sports. This is where we do it at, right here, every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, give or take. You know what I mean? Um, Lot to talk about. Baseball season starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Like Little Orphan Annie, the sun will come out tomorrow. Yes, it'll be in San Francisco tomorrow, right?
On
Yeah,
Netflix.
on Netflix. No,
On on Netflix.
on Netflix tomorrow night. Yankees and San Francisco Giants. We're gonna talk some baseball tonight. We're gonna talk some Sweet 16 tonight. May both of our teams rest in peace. Of course, Gonzaga, my yearly tradition. They got they didn't even make it to the first weekend. Man. That's
Yeah,
and
gotta
we
get out of it.
I want to talk about that a little bit too. I want to get into that a little bit with Gonzaga and the tournament. As always, we are in the building. My co-D is in the house. Yada Bear, aka it's time for Phillies baseball in the house. What's good, Browski? How you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing about baseball seasons, starting tomorrow. It feels like the off season was very short, I feel like we just finished, wrapping up the World Series, and now we're right back at the beginning of a brand new season. And I think it has something to do with the WBC being on. We got a little bit of baseball a little bit early, you know, than expected. Some competitive baseball. So it really get our baseball heads, wrap and ready for the season to start. But other than that, just trying to survive in these allergy streets. Salute to everybody who also suffer from seasonal allergies. I know how y'all feeling because even though it's cold outside, for some reason, my allergies been on the beam for like since last week. Keep your head up.
That's crazy.
Keep your
That's
head up.
That's how we do. We look out for our fellow people over here down in sports. Browski's dealing with some allergies. I deal with that a little bit too, but Browski be going through it, man. So if you can, send a shout out, you know what I mean, things of that nature, help her get it, get her mind right off of those, off of the allergies and all that. Because her friend Ben's not doing her no justice. Ben is not doing no
Not
justice
at all.
at all. So we're gonna get into this first, Browski, because I know we're gonna talk a lot about baseball, but the NBA. It was just behind the scenes just now talking about this 65 game MVP rule where there's nobody actually left to qualify. Um, and you know how I feel about it. I'm gonna let you talk about it, say what you got to say. But for me, I just felt like this was much ado about nothing. Kind of like the New Jerseys that they had in the Major League Baseball All Star game. They should have never did that. But anyway, go ahead, Browski. Talk about it a little bit, and then we're gonna keep it pushing and doing what we do.
Well, I mean, like you said, we're talking about it behind the scenes, and my conclusion is it's only an issue now because the NBA fades are all ineligible to even be in the running for the MVP. I mean,
That's right.
when you look down the list of former MVP or guys who's always in the running for MVP, they're all checked off the list. Your KDs, your LeBrons, your Steph, your Jokers, now your SGAs, your Jason Tatum's. Um, the new shining toy, that everybody was throwing in the MVP race up in Detroit, Cade Cunningham. Now he's done. My man played so hard in Detroit, he collapsed his lung up there. So it's wild, and I was listening to Wimby, talk earlier, and from I think it was from last night game, he basically said that hey, the MVP is mine. Um, they should just give it to him now. And when you look around the league, I'm like, well, he is actually correct because I think even with certain players, if they were still eligible, the way that Wemby has been playing this year, both offensively and defensively, have been amazing. And he does look like the clear cut choice to win the MVP this year. And he basically is going to be the only choice to win the MVP this
That's
year.
crazy.
And and it's an ongoing trend now when we see that European slash foreign born players are winning the MVP more and more than American based players. Now, when he's from France, he's probably going to win the MVP. Joker won it multiple years. Joel won it. Giannis won it. I mean, we just throw Luca in it. I'm not even sure if Luca is eligible to even be considered for the MVP. But if he is, he will definitely be another one. So this again continues to prove the point that the NBA is more global than anyone expected, and the stars are more global now. And I mean, just give Wemby the MVP. It's like the 65 game minimum. I'm pretty sure that's going to be changed. It had a good run. It sounds great on paper, but in reality, um, it seems not to be attainable with this NBA that we are in now. It's a different type of NBA, softer type of NBA.
Go ahead,
Guys are
Browski.
not as durable as guys from the past
Man, she's
when
putting
they didn't
nice.
have certain
She is putting nice.
amenities.
Yes.
They didn't have certain amenities now, like these
Certain amenities.
multi-million-dollar athletes have, and for some strange reason, they get injured even more. Some can
Right.
argue it's the different style of the game. We can have that argument. Yeah, the game is played a little bit differently now. Big guys are playing more like guards. Guards are playing more like big guys. There's a lot of running, more cutting to the basket. I mean, you can have that argument, but I have to keep reminding people that we have 7 footers sitting in coach, flying back to back games. We have 7 footers sitting on buses,
Hmm.
traveling from city to city, and we're still playing more than 65 games. So you could take that as you like, but we just know that right now the MVP race seems to be one of one. How you feel about this, Left?
Well, funny you should ask. I feel like on the Victor Wembanyama note, even if all of those dudes was was healthy beyond their wildest dreams, SGA, Joker, Luka Doncic, Kay Cunningham, anybody you name, Victor Wembanyama was still, to me, be the favorite for the MVP. And I'm going to factor in stuff like, look, they clinched the San Antonio Spurs clinched the Southwest Division, first time in 9 years.
Yeah.
That should hold some weight when you're talking about MVP type thing, right? I think that this team they're way ahead of the curve,
Yes.
way ahead of schedule, way ahead of schedule.
Yes.
Um, I think that his team plays well against other teams in the Western Conference that have other MVP candidates such as Shea Gilgis Alexander, who the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Spurs ran through them this season. I think 3 out of 4 times.
Yeah, they can't beat them for some reason.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, they
So yeah,
can't beat them.
so I feel like all of that with Wembanyama. I feel like I think the kid's averaging like 24, 11, 3 assists and 3 block shots,
Hmm.
and he's already on an ascension on a list of names of people that we talk about in rare air like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq already. Already, Broski, right? So I
Hmm.
think that we've seen what Shea Gilgis can do. We've seen what the Joker could do on the numerous occasions. Luka Doncic. Who else we gonna? LeBron. Who else you gonna say? We've seen those guys. Victor Wembanyama has this team and people talking louder than they were maybe 2 or 3 months ago about the San Antonio Spurs actually winning, not just contending, winning the NBA championship.
Yeah.
Like, all these other teams, we talk about the Knicks, and you talk about Boston, and you talk about the Thunder, and you talk about all these other teams. The San Antonio Spurs have been the most, to me, entertaining, consistent. It's more than Wembanyama, right? Castle, who was the rookie of the year last year, right?
Yep.
Um, so they have a team, and I think that defensive player of the year was already they were already putting his name on that trophy already.
Hmm.
Um, I think that all the things that you mentioned about the other guys and stuff like that, this is the year that actually Victor Wembanyama can say, okay, all I have to do is keep on doing what I do to the rest of the end of the season, and the MVP is mine. But now, are they going to say, oh, well, here's going to be the conversation, Kimmy. Well, Shea Gilgis Alexander was hurt. Kate Cunningham collapsed lung. Jokic was this and that. They didn't have the playing field wasn't level. Why not? That dude goes out there every night and does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's not
You
his
know what I
fault
mean?
he hurt.
Nah, come on, Browski. Absolutely.
It's
It's
not
not
his
his.
fault.
You know what I'm saying? So, and his time is going to come when he wears down, right?
Hmm.
He's 22 years old, so he's having fun doing his numbers as he should. So again, if he's doing his numbers well enough, and you feel like for me, listening to him say out of his own mouth, like, "Yo, the MVP is who's better than me."
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. Why you got to be humble, right? You don't have to be like super braggadocious about it, but still, at the end of the day, who's nicer than me right now?
Yeah.
All I got to do is fulfill what we're supposed to do. We won the Southwest Division. Now there's the next hurdle to get out of the West. Now the next hurdle is to get out of the West, right? So again, that would be my case stated for Victor Wembanyama when winning the MVP. Okay, because again, like I said, we've seen these other guys before. We've heard 2 or 3, 4 speeches from them for the MVP, and when
Yeah.
they won MVP.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Victor Wembanyama, a guy who actually, not to say there's taking away anything from those other guys, because those guys are champions, right?
Yes.
So again, I mean, and if the MVP is a regular season award,
Yeah.
so back to what I was saying about the 65 game thing. The NBA, Adam Silver got ahead of himself once again, trying to appease to these cats because he was still in the back of his mind. He was still thinking about the load management thing. So how
Yeah.
are we going to deal with this load management? So all these guys are missing games, whether they're hurt, whether they're taking a day off, or whatever the case may be. We got to make it now to benefit those guys. So we're
Hmm.
going to reduce instead of making it 82 games, a 82 game season. You play however many games you play. 65 games is the minimum to play to be eligible for the MVP. How many leagues will you have to be presentable 80% of the time and win the MVP? You only have to play 80% of your team's games to win the MVP.
Hey, you get the PTO hours. It's the vacation time.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And again, um, you don't ever want anybody to be hurt. Like you see what happened to the Moody kid. Oh,
Yeah.
so you never want anybody to get hurt, man. That's not the idea, and it's also not the idea to acquiesce. How you like that for a word?
Mm.
Acquiesce to these players and say, okay, you can't play 82 games because you're tired and you're mentally drained. That you went from having 3 or 4 people as a staff to having 30 or 45 people as a staff, and you mean to
Yeah.
tell me you can't play back to back twice a month? Are you serious right now? So for me, Adam Silver is effing up the league,
It
trying
is.
to trying to be trying to showcase the league for the other countries, which I'm not mad at, but then again, I might be a little bit mad at because again, you're taking away from where the game started at over here. They're doing their own thing over there. They got the lane is wider. They got different rules. They use a different ball, so they're doing their thing. Let them
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
Because there was a little league that did that over here once upon a time called the ABA, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you know, Victor Wembanyama deserves the MVP. The NBA played themselves with the 65 game rule. Now it's come back to bite them in the ass. And now that leaves, like you said, leaves basically 1 or 2 people who could be eligible. But what about Bam Adebayo? Can he be eligible?
What happened to Bam Adebayo when the Spurs just beat the Suns by almost 30?
Well,
Where was
I
those?
don't know.
Where was
But
those? What was those 83 points?
yeah,
Mm, interesting. Where was those
he's
83 points?
interested.
Yeah, yeah.
But
They
yeah,
could
man.
really use that.
Yeah, I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
somebody will say something, but you can't take nothing away from Victor Wembanyama, man, because again, he's doing everything that he needs to do. The argument will be like, well, he doesn't do this, he doesn't. Nope, he plays offense and defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he definitely affects the game when he's in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keeping it on the basketball, Brosky, what's your thoughts in regards to the WNBA and the players, finally getting that situation ratified as far as
Uh,
the contracts are concerned?
finally, it was a long time coming. The WNBA definitely had to do some self reflecting and look into the mirror and look at themselves, especially when things start coming out about the league, financially. For years we've been hearing, well, the WNBA isn't making any money. They're not turning a profit. Why would we pay the players more when they're not turning a profit? And then it's like, oh, ding, 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 ding. Let me pull out the checkbook and check our balances, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, we did pull a profit. Wait a minute, it's going to trigger revenue sharing with the players that basically build this league. And now all of they want was a fair piece of the pie. And now, boom, we found an agreement. It took almost a year. The season will be starting soon. And we finally got a deal done. Deal going to last from 2026 to 2032. Um, Basically raising the salary cap. So the salary cap this year will be 7 million. It's a lot of money to divide throughout these teams. And then by the time 2031 pulls around, the salary cap will be raised to 10 million. So right now we will be seeing our star players like Asia, um, Stewie, Sabrina. We'll be seeing some of these players signing super max contracts, which will be around 1.4 million for this season, which is amazing. Last year, people was starting salary was like 64,000 dollars. Now the minimum salary starts at 270. That's like, oh, what, like 4 times over like what was they making last year. And one of the best things about this deal, and impressive, that I am impressed by the WNBA CBA president, um, is they did not forget about the retired players, that there will be back pay for them even though they have been retired, 5, maybe almost 10 years out the league. There's back pay that they will get from this deal. Also, players who was in the league, I believe, with 2020 until now, will also receive back pay even though they're still active in the league, because these guys been holding on to this money. They couldn't find it. It took them 6 years to find
Fine.
all of this money that somehow, for
Like
years, like
you
I said, for years, they've been telling us they're not making any money. Why would we pay these women more money when they have been? Merchandise, jerseys, tickets. You can't tell me this league's not making money and you're expanding the league. You're
right.
adding all these new teams. So why would you add teams to a failing league that's not making money? Because when you add a new team, you're bringing in a new source of revenue. I mean, anybody who has any type of sense would know that. You got two teams coming this year, they any city just can't just get a team. You gotta buy into the team. You have to present money to show that, hey, I can fund this team. You can't just
Hmm.
come to the table with $150 and say, you know what, I want to get open. I want to start a WNBA team. I got $150. What can I do with that? That's not how it. That's not how it works here. Okay,
You go.
it don't work that way.
You can go to the
Okay.
neighborhood. You can go to the neighborhood. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
You
Let
go to
me.
the WCA and get busy.
Yeah, like we say here in Philly, let me go tap Mac real quick. I got
Right.
$200. I want to start a WNBA franchise. That's not how it goes. These guys who own these franchises, they are millionaires. Okay, so they have to present a certain amount of money to have these teams. So you're telling me from all this time, when we're sitting here and we're saying how excited we are about women's sports, and the big guys on ESPN, they're telling us that, oh, the women's NCAA tournament had X amount of views, record breaking views. We're seeing a new league, Unrivaled, come out the woodwork and being extremely successful, so successful that they was able to go on tour into other cities and sell out. And these women was making 200K for a 3-on-3 tournament. When in a professional basketball league, they was making about $56,000 for this entire year. When
Mm.
I can go play in a 3-on-3 tournament for a couple of weeks and make 200K, what are we doing? So this deal is fantastic. I am very happy for them. I'm excited to have women's basketball back, and knowing that we have a good little stretch where there's still some improvement that can happen. But this is a great start. And yeah, and I just can't wait. We'll have the expansion draft happening soon. Um, you'll have the regular draft happening after the tournament. You know, everything's going to happen extremely fast because the league starts. In a couple, like a month or two, like 2 months. We'll be talking about the WNBA. So it's going to be rapid fire. It's going to be a lot of moving pieces in the WNBA really fast. But like I said, I'm happy. I'm very proud of them, and can't wait to see more improvement and wait to see some women's basketball. How you feel about it, Left?
I think that it's a great thing. Welcome to the world of business. I think that you know a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean people involved in the WNBA, from the players to
Yeah.
the coaches, and the rank and file. They learned about each other.
Yep.
It's all smiles and giggles, and everybody's hugging each other, and it's a great time when they're playing, winning championships and celebrating that and stuff like that. But once the lights go off and now it's time to regenerate, you gotta have something there to to regenerate with, and it was there, but then it wasn't. It took labor, almost labor strife, for this situation to take care of itself. But I think that the way the league was moving, it wasn't really helping their stance as far as, well, there's no money. Well, like Brodsky said, if there's no money, why are you expanding to all these different cities, right? So now that that part of the game is over, now it gets down to the negotiations and things of that nature coming down the line. How much is this person worth to you? And the reason why I bring that up is because expansion is going to bring two teams like Toronto and Portland, right? um, the rules that who these existing franchises are going to be able to protect, and how the draft is going to work. That's still probably being worked up in the air now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then free agency. That's another thing.
Yeah.
More than 80% of the WNBA players will be free agents because their contracts expired last year.
Yes. A lot
So
of signings.
yeah, so it's going to be a lot to deal with, and the college draft is coming up. I think that's what, April 13th, Browski.
Correct. Yes.
I think that they get I
It's
preface my whole conversation with welcome to business.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
Um.
business side.
One more thing I
Come
failed
on,
to mention that's huge. Just to double down what you're saying about roster spots is the fact that they are also adding two additional roster spots for each team for for developmental players. So, as we've seen in years past, where you could be a number one pick and not make the team, or you could be last year's number one pick and for some strange reason now you're off the team because we didn't drafted this player and now we are more invested in this player who didn't start off as
with the
quickly as
business
we
company. Let's go,
expected.
Browski.
So now,
Mm-hmm.
with this, they have a chance to develop players. Now we can see a team that's like, I don't know, like OKC in the NBA, where they have young players that they are developing. And look, you have a squad of young players that you develop. You won a championship. Look at the Spurs. They got a bunch of young guys that they drafted to develop on their team, and now they
That's
are a
what
team.
you do.
So
Mm-hmm.
now we'll be able to have that same mindset in the WNBA, where you don't have to, if you're not 100% on, that you are, if you're not on, then there's a chance that your spot will be taken by someone who's hot right now. Now we get to see players develop together as a core and don't have to team hop to try to find a home on a roster for the rest of the season. So I'm extremely happy about that. I'm like, we've been asking for more spots. I'm tired of seeing number one picks, play 1 year here or a year and a half, and then the following years they're gone. They're you never heard of them again. So,
How about when they
you know,
get all dressed up and prettied up for the draft
yeah, and then not make the team,
and not make the team? Now,
which is crazy
it's,
to me.
you know what I mean? And hopefully we won't, be having to see that or deal with that, or any of those young ladies that are coming up in the game, because these next couple of NBA WNBA drafts are going to be loaded.
It's gonna be
So,
crazy.
and again, so I can't wait to. This is me, Browski. This is me being on the testosterone side of things.
Uh-huh.
I can't wait to see when they start negotiating contract. No, they're not paying me enough. No, I want some more. That's what I'm gonna know is real. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's a great thing for the WNBA to finally put that behind them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And hopefully, as they get closer to being able to, what is it, 2032, to
Yeah.
ratify the next time, they'll have more be in lockstep, where they can just kind of like this, turn the page and move forward. Yeah, so that's where we at with it right now. So this is going to be Browski's what I say, third favorite part of the show right now. Um, 2026 MLB preview. What we're gonna do is Browski's gonna cover the National League, right? I'm gonna cover the American League, right? Because my team is the Yankees, we're in the American League. Browski team is the Phillies, they're the National League. So I'm really, really interested to see what the Phillies are going to do in that National League East, which is going to be serious. A lot of people sleeping on it. It's not just going to be the Mets. The Braves got that. Go ahead, Browski. I can talk all day. Go ahead.
Well, we would definitely start in the NL East, and it's crazy that when we start talking about the NL East, the first team that's mentioned is the Mets. How
You
how
don't like that.
disrespectful!
Browski don't like
How
that, son.
disrespectful! When you had the defending, reigning NL East champ sitting right here. Okay. Yes. Oh my God. They shine Bo. Oh, okay. They got Juan Soto. Those names sound amazing, right? But what's a
See
very
what
key
yeah, man.
important part of baseball? Pitching. The Mets don't have it. They don't have it like that. So we see all these shiny new toys they have, up in City Bank Park, whatever, you know. Now
Crazy or whatever. Oh,
let's
whatever.
let's circle back to the real team in the NL, which is the Phillies. Okay. Now, do I think my team is complete? No, I do not think they're complete, but I do think that we have one of the best teams, not only in the NL East, but in the NL. And it starts with our starting rotation. Our rotation is sick. Okay. We just locked up my new ace, Christopher Sanchez, up for another 6 years, which was a very smart move by Dombrowski to get an extension in place 2 years ahead of time. Because guess what? What has been the theme this whole off season that we've been talking to you guys about, and I hope y'all been paying attention, is the strike that's going to happen next season when we're talking about salary caps. And when we look at teams like the Mets, like that's been mentioned, well, look at all those contracts they just signed up over there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things going to be different coming 2027, 2028, when they have to sit down and renegotiate this CBA, and they implement a salary cap to these teams, and then they have to open up their books and say, oh, we are way too top heavy. We cannot pay all these players these 200, 300, 400,
Mm-hmm.
500
Let's
million
go.
dollar contracts. Okay? So when we talk about these teams, I look at it as, with the mindset of this is going to be a one season deal right here. Because I have a very strong feeling, and I think my partner over there has the same feeling, that we will not be doing a 2027 baseball preview this time
All right.
next year
Let's
because we
go.
will be in a lockout. Okay? We'll be talking about negotiations and how they are this way, so far apart that we don't see a baseball season happening. So
We go talk about the United Football League.
exactly, we'll be covering that, okay, instead of baseball, all right. But when I looked at this Phillies team, I get more and more excited about the team that we're putting in place. A mixture of young guys and our core group. The fact that Justin Crawford has made the squad as in the center field, you know. Um, Andrew Painter, a guy that we've been waiting for years, has finally made it to the main rotation this year. Both guys had a decent spring training, decent outing. Um, we have our Kemp on our starting roster. Um, we got Garcia in right field. You know, Nick Castellanos is now gone. He is out there, somebody else's problem, not ours anymore. Um, I still think we may still move Alec Bohm. He's the only guy that when I look at this roster, I'm still iffy about because of his defense and also his inconsistency at the plate. But the strong part of our team is our starting rotation and our bullpen. You know, as long as the guys can stay off the PEDs in this bullpen, I'm looking at you, Alvarado. I'm looking right at you,
Yeah, that you, Alvarado.
right at you. We already have a situation with Rojas. For some reason, this guy PEDs and it didn't help his game. Okay, because without the PEDs or away from it, he would still lost a spot to
He's the
Justin
same
Crawford.
player. Right.
So you know he's doing something that is not helping them. Um, but I do think the Phillies will still run the NL East. Um, the Braves, I just feel like the Braves are like cursed right now. They always start the season with key injuries. Now Spencer Strider once again he's hurt. They got
And it's swelling back too.
about yeah, and they got about three guys from their pitching staff who's hurt. And then you got Prefer, who is suspended for the whole year because you know he can't lay off the PEDs. You know, they didn't sign this guy all this money. He didn't miss 80 games last season. Turn around and he said, you know what, I can do better. Let me double up. And
Right,
he
right.
missed out the
That's,
whole season.
yep, that's right.
Okay, so when we look at that, it's like wow, you know, they brought him here because Acuna was hurt, you know. You still had Albies, but you was definitely really counting on this guy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to help you out there, and he had other plans. Um, the Nationals is still the Nationals. The Marlins still the Marlins, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when we look at the rest of the NL, who's of course who's up top? The Dodgers. We have to keep talking about the Dodgers because once again, the rich keep getting richer. They bring in Kyle Tucker. You know, you still got the Freddie Freemans, Otani, Mookie Betts. You know, who I think don't get as much credit as he should, especially for being one of the top black players in the league. You know, he's the guy in Mookie Betts. And when you look at this guy's resume, you're like, well, who's this guy? Is this guy retired right? No, it's Mookie Betts. He's a walking Hall of Famer in this league.
Mm.
And even with me being a Phillies fan, you have to respect his work, what he does, what he do on that field, the different positions he can play, and
Mm-hmm.
how he can still
Sacrifice, right.
maintain that level of play at his age. He's been in the league forever, and still a high level player.
Hmm.
So when we talk about the creme of this NL, you have to start with the Dodgers right there. Pitching solid, Otani solid, Morimoto solid, World Series MVP. Then everything else starts to get a little funny because the Cubs is actually looking like a team that we can talk about now. They just gave um a Pete what 100 and some
Yeah.
odd $1 million.
Yeah. Hmm.
They just signed him. Um, then we look at another team, and there's always there. Uh, uh, the Padres. Look what the Padres got going on over there. Then we can look at the Brewers. It's the NL is going to be quite interesting um this year. I will also look at teams, the Giants. We've been talking about the Giants for about like 3 years now, and we quietly they've been putting together a team, and I think this year that NL West is going to be extremely competitive with the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. Now, the Diamondbacks, we don't know what
Mm.
Corbin's going to look like when he comes back. He's battling his demons, his injury demon over there. So I feel like they may fall off just a tight bit, but
Hmm.
the West, I think, is going to be a tighter race than it was last year. And I think when we think about the NL, the East and the West is going to be two of the divisions to really keep your eye on. Now, the Central, the Central is what they're going to fight it out between the Brewers and the Cubs. Because, like I said, the Cubs are now looking like they're making better decisions. The Pirates are still the Pirates, even with Tariq Skubal. I mean,
Schemes.
Schemes with Paul Schemes. We saw what Paul did in WBC, looking like the best pitcher, one of the best pitchers out there. But again, you're on a losing team that for some reason just won't invest in bringing in more help, especially at the bats. Like they can never produce enough runs. Um,
Mm.
the Cardinals, what can we say about the Cardinals? They always look good at the beginning of the year. They come out hot, and then we'll start saying, "Oh, the Cardinals look like they're coming back." They maybe they found their footing, and then come August, it's like what happened to the Cardinals? Where are they at? So
Hmm.
I feel like the teams that's going to come out of each of these conferences, because I'm just going to throw it out there: Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers by this much.
Mm.
By that much, I say the Dodgers. You know,
Hmm.
um, would I be surprised if the San Francisco Giants somehow fleeced them? I wouldn't. It would be it'd be a robbery
Mm.
because how dare someone else but the Dodgers win the West,
Hmm.
especially with that roster. And if they do lose the West, it will be a complete failure if the Dodgers will be a wild card team. And
Right.
and even
Right.
though you still make the playoffs, but when you
Right.
look at how much you're spending on this roster,
Yeah,
if you
let's go,
don't
bro.
win the West, at
Hmm.
least win the West, it's a
Bare
failure.
minimum. That's right.
So that's how I look at it. I'm gonna let you go to the AL, um, so you can talk about your Yankees.
Um, yeah, I'm talking about my Yankees. Tomorrow night, man, it's going down
Yes.
early. Like, you know what I mean? Yankees and the San Francisco Giants on Netflix. We talked about that at the top. Um, I'm feeling like we were stagnant. We didn't really do a lot. We didn't really do nothing. As far as free agency, we wouldn't got to do what we already had. So again, the teams around us, everybody else went and made moves to get better. The Red Sox went and got Sonny Gray. They went and got Caleb Durbin from the Brewers. Toronto, they did what they did. They're the defending American League champions. They did what they had to do or whatever, but they're going to go through some changes
Yeah.
this season. Um, I'm feeling like the American League East is going to be a race where it's going to be three teams. It's going to be the Yankees, it's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's going to be the Boston Red Sox. But I'm going to put the Boston Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays in pencil.
Not in pen.
The Baltimore Orioles, they added Pete Alonso. And I think that, that continues in that tradition of, hard hitting first baseman for the Orioles, all the way back, Boone
Yeah.
Powell, Eddie Murray, Rafael Palmeiro, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Chris Davis, right? So I think the Orioles are going to be a problem. They're definitely going to be better than they were last year. Last year they stunk. The Rays, I don't think they're really going to be a factor. They're going to try to be better, but it's who wants that third spot. Who wants to be trying to compete for a wild card in August and September, right? As far as the American League Central is concerned, I think it's the Tigers division to lose. They called up the kid, the second baseman McGonigal.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna really help them out offensively. Pitching wise, it's Terry Scuba. They got Framber Valdez from the Houston Astros.
Hmm.
So that that's going to really help the Tigers to get over in that Central Division. Now I'm gonna go back to last year when I talked about the American League Central last year. I talked about the Kansas City Royals, right? What did I say about the Kansas City Royals? I said the Kansas City Royals are going to win the division.
Yeah.
I think this year they're not going to win the division, but they're going to definitely, absolutely be a factor. That kid Bobby Witt Jr. is the truth.
He
He's gonna end up having a career like a George Brett. I mean, remember George Brett. As far as
listen.
Kansas City is concerned, he's one of those guys. I hope he stays where he's at for the rest of his
Look,
career.
got to say one thing about him. About even though he plays in KC,
Mhm.
us being on the East Coast and me being in the NL, we don't really see them play as much. Watching him in the WBC, it was mind blowing. I was like, wow, like this guy is amazing. He plays shortstop. I'm gonna say like some of the old guys would say, he plays it the right way. He plays it
That's
how it's
that's
supposed to play. Very pure, you know, nothing fancy. No, I'm gonna get to the ball. This is my area. I control this area right here. Nothing fancy or no, I'm gonna get to the ball, make the play, and then we're gonna go on with the next one. So I definitely enjoy watching Bobby Wood Jr. And yeah,
absolute.
I love it.
So yeah, I mean, so like we used to say back in the day, like, listen, the American League starting shortstop in the American League for the next 10 years is a wrap. You already got that penciled in, right?
Hmm.
Like you say that about Gia, but that's another story because we could talk about that. But the American League Central, I think that the Tigers can, they need to, really just kind of like turn up the pressure, turn up the heat, because the Royals are coming. The Cleveland Guardians are going to take a step back. Um, the Minnesota Twins are just languishing. Nobody respects them, right? And then you got the Chicago White Sox. They're not going to be as bad as they were last year. They're not.
Hmm.
I just think that they're not going to lose 100 and some odd games. They might lose 90. You know what I mean? But I think they're going to be better than they were. American League West. I talked about the Texas Rangers last year. Talk about the Texas Rangers again. The Seattle Mariners, I think, they lost Suarez. I think that, Cal Riley's going to fall off. He's not going to hit 60 home runs again.
I mean,
He's
he
going to
fell
fall
off
off.
in the WBC. They didn't even play him.
The guy that they need to really be that guy that they talked about when he was coming up in the game. And you know who I want to say? Julio Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
If Julio Rodriguez can be that superstar guy, because like we just talked about a guy who's past Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to really say that, but it's the truth, right? What is Julio Rodriguez? I mean, he had a couple of moments in the postseason last year, but they eventually lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, when you talk about superstars, they're there. They're all over the league, right? But in the American League, I think that it's going to be the East is going to be crazy. The Central is going to be what it is. I think the West, you know, people say, oh well, what about the Houston Astros? What about the Houston
What a,
Astros?
what about him?
What about them? They lost, you know, Alex Bregman, they lost Framber Valdez, they lost, but they got a couple of young guys that are coming up and doing their thing. But again, what about the Houston Astros? Like, what are they going to do that's going to say, okay, they're going to challenge and you know be able to compete with the Seattle Mariners, you know, and do their thing. I think even the Athletics, wherever they end up playing or be at, they're going to be better, right?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and then the only team I see that's really going to be, you know, languishing is the Angels. You know, another year without no postseason, another year of Mike Trout wasted his career out
Waste.
there.
He
You
wasted
know,
his whole career. He
his whole
wasted.
career out there doing basically nothing. You know what I mean? But getting money and staying on the injured list. So I
Exactly.
think that the American League, the Yankees are going to win the East. The Tigers are going to win the Central. I picked the Mariners to win the West. I think the wild cards I picked was the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. And I think it's one more. The Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and I think the Rangers for my wild
Okay.
card.
Okay.
I think the Texas Rangers are going to get to the American League Championship Series. They're going to play the Yankees, and the Yankees are going to win because I think if the Yankees, this is what I'm saying. This is one of my bold predictions, Broski. We can get into that too. But one of my bold predictions: if the Yankees are in first place and there's a move to be made, I think they're going to make that move. It might not be the biggest money move, but watch around the trade deadline,
Yeah.
right? Because especially because again, Browski, the thing is what you talked about when we started. The potential, well, we already know it's 99% going to happen of a lockout strike situation, right?
Yes.
So if these teams are going to be scrambling to try
Go
to get,
all in. All
yeah,
in.
yes, they're going to be
All season.
scrambling to try to get this last World Series before baseball stops.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a it's gonna be like a death match out here. Like like all teams who has a real shot of making the postseason. Not none of these fake teams, that make a flash, and then by the time the end of the year comes, they're nowhere to be found. But I feel like these real
Like the
elite
Pirates, like the
teams
Pirates.
that really making a play, it's gonna be a lot of movement, I think, for the trade deadline. And one, I can't wait for them to move the trade deadline back so that we have more time, to get that done. I'm hoping that's something that they will be discussing during their negotiations is moving that. But I definitely think that we're going to be seeing a lot of moves made baseball reason wise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, a position, you know, is going to be more like I feel like it's going to be like more like a football free trade. Like we're trading this guy because he's great at this position here. We need him for this position for this postseason run. Not to have a big name on our squad, but if he's the best third baseman, we're gonna trade for this third baseman. If he's the one of the best pitchers out there, and we're know that we're one arm away, we're gonna trade for them. So I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more position trades happening for the postseason. So I can't wait. I think it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be what they call like what word they like to use, a frenzy. You know, they always like to use free agent frenzy, trade frenzy. You know, it's going to be one of those. So it's going to be an interesting year this year for baseball.
If you got any kind of beef with the upper management, or it's any question of whether you going, you're going.
You're going. Oh,
That's,
you're out
you
of
know,
here.
a couple of names that I think just off the top of my head, because this is what we do over here. Byron Buxton,
Oh, he's moving.
the Minnesota Twins.
Oh
He's
yeah,
there. He should have been moved already. But I
he should have been
mean,
moved already. Yeah,
um, dare I say Joe Ryan? Dare I say Aldi Rushman?
yeah,
Listen, if the Braves are not doing what they're supposed to do, dare I say Ronald Acuna?
yes,
Like
yeah,
it's gonna get crazy. And for myself, as being a baseball purist, and just knowing that what's ahead,
yeah,
and how important that every day as we get closer to the end of September is going to be, right? I just wish this was kind of like back in the day, Browski, where we had, I don't know, this might be a little bit before your time. We had like the sporting news. It was like a newspaper,
hmm,
and it would have all the stats, it would have the box scores of every single game that happened. You know what I mean? And then we would just go through it and stuff like that, and that's the way you would keep up. But now it's kind of like a overflow. It's in your pocket. You
yeah.
want to find out what Fernando Tatis is doing. You know what I mean? You can go to your phone and do that. But I think again, this is going to be a very exciting baseball season. Listen, opening day is my thing,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? Like a kid, man. You know, and again, this will be, watch this. This will be my 50th year.
Damn. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
I said, damn, this will be my 50th year rocking, Yankee baseball and all that. So I'm definitely going to be in a couple of games, trying to go to a few games.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy it, man. Again, it's been 50 years since my first, experience with Yankee baseball. Went to the World Series and got done up by the Big Red Machine, and that was then, and this is now. 50 plus years later, damn, we still doing what we do, man, and making it happen. We are in the building live and direct. This is Down in Sports. This is myself, left-handed, at RM Deso on Twitter, which is this right now. And then you got my Cody in the building. Always be dropping knowledge like dimes, like mail packages. That's Browski and now. AKA got the bear, aka High Ceilings. Where we at with the NCAA tournament? Let's talk about that real quick before we get ready to get
Yeah.
up out of here.
Oh man. Great 2 weeks. I mean, great. 2 rounds. We've seen some upsets. We've seen Texas. First four in, making it to the Sweet 16. We're seeing. We got three number one seeds still in there. Florida, defending champs, knocked out, in the second round. They got out of there. We got a lot of good matchups in the Sweet 16. Um, St. John Duke, that's a scary matchup for Duke. Um, I would say Arkansas and Arizona, that's a tough matchup
That's
right
gonna be a
there.
good game.
Yeah, Alabama and Michigan, I think that's going to be a good game. Um, the one game that I think is going to be really good, that Michigan State and UConn game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Friday's games. I just had to say, Friday's games are like that schedule is crazy. The St. John's, Duke, Alabama, Michigan,
That's
Michigan
that's
State,
what it's supposed to be,
UConn.
man.
Yeah,
Oh,
Tennessee, Iowa State. That's their whole lineup for Friday. That's a crazy slate right there. Um,
breaking breaking news: Hubert Davis will not return as North Carolina's head coach. He spent the last 5 years as the head coach of the Tar Heels, compiling a 125-54 record.
Wow.
Right. You know, since they went to that title game in his first year, they lost to Kansas.
They lost Kansas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, man, that didn't be a surprise to some people, but again, Hubert Davis not going to be returning as North Carolina's head coach, but he leaves with a decent record.
Oh yeah. If he wants to
He
coach
won
again, he would have to
he
get
won
hired somewhere
twice
else.
the games that he lost. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's what that is. And what did we say last week, Basket, about Syracuse? The Syracuse job. It's
Yeah.
Jerry McNamara from Siena got the job at
Got the
Syracuse.
job real quick.
So, I mean, rock with us over here, man. Rock
Yeah.
with us. That's all that I'm just saying. Just
Yeah.
rock with us. We not jumping out the window, and we're not making any crazy statements like Jason Whitlock, and we're not ready to kill you or jump out the window like Stephen A. Smith. We just going to
Mhm.
talk and say what we say. You know what I mean? Jerry McNamara made the most sense,
He did.
right? No disrespect to Adrian Autry, man, but again, it didn't work
It didn't
out,
work.
and that's what it is. But here's the thing: Carmelo Anthony, Cayenne Anthony. Okay, we get it now. This is why you weren't playing
Mhm.
because physicality. You wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not blaming Adrian Autry and Carmelo. I kind of commend Carmelo. For anybody else, I think anybody else parent that had their son really all primed, ready to be. Yeah, Kimmy. Yeah, and I think Carmelo handled it really, 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 really well. And now all we gotta do now is get Cayenne in the weight room. Get him in the weight
Yeah.
room. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with throwing up 1,000 shots, but you gotta get ready for that wear and tear. We said that. What we said that about everybody. We said it about Sean.
Always.
We said it about Yao Ming. We said it about Porzingis. You got to get your weight up.
Gotta get in that gym.
They don't call them power forwards for nothing. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And even the small forwards got a little bit of bulk on them. So again, we're not coming down and chastising. Now that hindsight is 2020, it's always 2020. We see now why Cayenne was on the bench. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So again, and what's more importantly, Kimmy, is that how Melo didn't get involved in it. Like, oh, why you not playing my son? And they try to even
Yeah.
create a like, oh, Carmelo's son's not playing. What's Carmelo think about it? What's Carmelo supposed to think about it?
Exactly. It's not his decision. It's the coach's decision. The coach said
Absolutely,
that.
Bosky. So
Yeah.
that's where we was at with that. So again, shout out to everybody, man. It's the Sweet 16. Bosky mentioned those Friday games. If you ain't got nothing to do, or if you're a big fan of college basketball, that's where you need to be because this tournament has had, like Kimmy said, it's had the Kentucky shots where they played Santa Clara. Santa Clara
Yeah.
scored. He came back and scored the overtime. They ran him out the gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gonzaga goes down to Texas, and again, this is what I wanted to talk about. We got a few minutes left. Gonzaga for all the West Coast Nebraska. We talk about this all the time. Tournament time.
Yeah.
You're playing in the West Coast Conference. You're playing a bunch of puff cakes and cream pies.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to the tournament, you're not built for that. The team that you have in the West Coast Conference now, like Santa Clara and St. Mary's and all that, you ain't got to worry about them no more because Gonzaga's getting ready to go to the Pac-12.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be
Right. So
crazy right there.
it's about to get really real.
About to get real for Gonzaga.
And again, so I feel like I'm still rocking with Gonzaga, but I just think that now I see it a little bit clear. You have a really you win 30 games every year, right? You win the West Coast Conference every year. If you don't win, it's the St. Mary's or something like that,
Exactly. Yep.
right? You'll lose a game during the season to Santa Clara or St. Mary's, right? Your non-conference schedule is you play some dope non-conference games. I got you, right? But those non-conference games are supposed to get you right for March. When March comes around, now you used to go to the Elite Eight,
Nope.
Sweet 16, Final four. Now you can't even get out the first weekend.
Can't get out the first weekend.
Can't get out the first weekend. What's
Not
the
at
matter
all.
with you? And that's what I'm gonna say to that. What was I gonna talk about? Get down on it. I lost my train of thought. All right, I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna do the get down on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um. Oh wow. Um. Yo, I have a big homie, right? His name is Jerry D. Lewis. If you ever seen this movie called Wild Style, he's in a group called Cold Crush Brothers. Um, Jerry D. Lewis, um, one of the original. And when I say original, I mean way OG original. Like when milk was in the wax milk carton, that OG,
Mm-hmm.
right? Wild guy, JDL. As time went on, he was dealing with some things on a personal level, right? Um, and basically, man, the demons just kind of, I guess, he got just tired of being tired, man. You know what I mean? We had really talked about some stuff, and he wanted to, do some. He wanted to be on the joint with me, and that would have been my have JDL on the record, the Cold Crush Brothers. Yeah, so it's a big loss for hip hop, man. We definitely gonna keep his name. I am. I've been listening to Cold Crush all day. So, and if you know, you know. Again, like the bastions and the heroes of my, youth are out of here. They're getting out of here at a terrific rate, man. And so, again, we all deal with what we deal with. You know what I mean? Good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I'm saying? But it's just that, um, people are gonna celebrate us whether we're here or not. I'd rather you celebrate you while you're here. But we're gonna keep your name, man. I wanted to get into a couple of stories, but then I'm gonna get on another level, and I don't want to do that because Browski will be laughing at me and stuff. But I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace, big homie JDL, man, from the Cold Crush Brothers, man. Salute. You know what I mean? We always gonna carry you, man. If you ever get a chance to watch that movie Wild Style, make sure you check that out. Now, this is Browski's favorite part of the show, where she gets to get down on some things that feel like she needs to get down on. What do we get down on tonight, Browski?
Well, we can get down on two things that basically go together. But I'm gonna get down
Mm-hmm.
on the women's NCAA tournament.
Uh
Um,
oh.
Man, two teams scoring over 100 points in the tournament is wild. You know, um, like a defense. I mean, we could say, it's offensive game, but I mean, South Carolina going over 100 points. LSU going over 100 points. Um, it's something that's not very common in women's college basketball. Um, you know, these 16, 16 seed teams. I just have to say, it's just time to really, get the competition level up a little bit more. We talked about when we talked about Gonzaga how the conference that they play in, not as great as the Power Five teams. So it just a little disheartened, seeing teams getting blown out like that. But it is what it is. When you look at these Sweet 16 matchups, you know, um, Notre Dame versus Vandy, North Carolina versus UConn, Minnesota versus UCLA, and the game that my eye will be on Friday is number three Duke versus number two LSU. That's going to be a fight right there. And then when we look at Saturday games, uh, Louisville versus Michigan, it's going to be a great game. Kentucky versus Texas. Madison Booker has been playing ridiculous. And also, I'm going to get a shout out to Ozzy Flood. Um, she played her final game in UConn, went out fantastic, very efficient, 34 points. You know, um, Oklahoma versus South Carolina. Joyce Edwards been playing lights out for South Carolina. Also, Raven Johnson. Salute to her. She scored her 1,000 point in the last game. And then another game that also I had my eye on is Virginia versus TCU. Virginia being one of the first four in teams to make it to the Sweet 16. So
Holding their
definitely
corner
salute.
down. Hmm.
Yeah, so definitely salute to them. Um, they outlast Iowa double overtime. So definitely salute to them this year. Again, the competition has been great. Games have been um, top tier. But the real thing I want to talk about and just get down on it is I need to talk about the women's Syracuse head coach.
I,
Okay, we
I
can
should
we
I
can
should
we
because
can
I wanted to
tag
talk
team
about
on this
it.
right here because they played UConn. They lost 98-45, and this is Coach Jack. Okay,
Hmm.
she's the head coach for Syracuse. She's mad because she says each year in the tournament we are always paired up with UConn. And not only are we always paired up with UConn, those games are always played in UConn. She, she's currently
I'm gonna let you
coaching.
do it, Bosky. Go ahead.
She's currently coaching Syracuse. She also encountered UConn when she coached in Buffalo.
Hmm.
Now, what I would say about this is be better.
Mm.
You were the ninth seed. Be better in the regular season so you have a higher seed. She said, "Oh well, we have other teams that go to LA and go to Philly or go to other places, but we're seen to always be paired up in this region." Well, sweetheart, you coach at Syracuse.
We got 3 minutes left.
Do better. Do better. Recruit better. Better regular season. What you got to say about it, Left? I'll let you finish it
Check it
off.
out, real quick. You're in the East. They're in the East. You gotta, if you want to go to the West region or the Midwest region, like Browski said, win some games. That crying about, oh, we get to play them every year. That's what you're gonna do. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna play UConn every year. That's how this thing works. You're in the region, you're in the bracket, you're gonna get placed in the same region in the same bracket with them. If UConn was an 8 or 9, they would probably be out in the Midwest somewhere, right? So again, at the end of the day, I was watching that game. It was like 63-12. I was like, what is this?
It was
You know what I
embarrassing.
mean? It was really really bad. But for the coach Jack to all respect, dude, I feel you on that. You know what I mean? Because if you get mollywop, you want to try to get away from that too. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's where you got placed. You lucky to be there, right? So again, what if you didn't get put in the tournament at all? Then what?
You be complaining about that.
So right. So for you to be a quote unquote a self-proclaimed sacrificial lamb is bad business. It reeks of poor sportsmanship, complaining, whining, crying, and then I can think of two more words for you before we get up out of here. Better,
Basically.
right?
Win
So
games.
myself, left-handed at RM Desk on Twitter, which is this right now, and my code D out there, aka Browski, aka Hi Sandwich. We are down in sports, and we're gonna get out of here, and we'll talk to y'all Tuesday night. We're gonna talk some baseball, first
Baseball.
impressions, that good stuff. Sweet 16, Final Four, all that good
Yep.
stuff. We are in the building. Browski gonna talk some wrestling next week too, because there's some things I need to know. How come Jade lost her title? Right? We're gonna get into all of that. Didn't think I was up on that, huh?
I see you.
Down in sports, we're in the building. We'll talk to you next week. Don't go nowhere, Browski. We'll talk to you next week, all right? The hell up out of here. Peace. Be with
Peace.